Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene. Today's date, December 27, 2025. We're coming up on our last week of 2025. Time to make those New Year's resolutions. Time in Texas about 6 a.m. Some of the sources I'll use today: Zero Hedge, Daily Mail, PEPE EXCOBAR, Alex KRAINER, Michael JACO, GLEN, DIESEN, plus some of the things we'll cover. We have an M5 flare today, and Atlas constituted our first contact. Oh, hey, we were going to tell y'all President Trump gives a message at the White House that Christmas equals the birth of Jesus Christ. And what's going on in Venezuela? We see China prepping with exercises to attack the U.S. in the Caribbean. And China also loading up Club K missiles on its commercial cargo ships. This is going to be interesting. So let's get started. What do we have going on in space? So we had off of the sun in the last 24 hours, we had an M5 flare, and we see Venus and Mars positioned around the sun, with Venus to go behind the sun January 6th, and Mars to go also behind the sun January 9. So that's going on. And what about Atlas? What's going on with that? We still see the Pentagon using Operation Star Shield to block radio signals from Atlas. Now, many sources now are converging to put forth that Atlas is a interstellar object, a spaceship, most likely operated by Anunnaki, the fallen angels, and Nephilim, a very negative group for humans on Earth. So we see the Earth taking a defensive posture toward Atlas. And we have this, Ben Davidson brought out a good white paper, brought notice to it, of the relationship between the Earth's electromagnetic fields and what happens to flowers and bees during a pole shift. We are seeing that now with many species of bees decimated and crops not being pollinated with flowers, and it's being put forth. This is a direct effect of the ongoing pole shift that we are in. So that's going on. And we have this. So from Stephen Burns, yes, and other sources put forth that the sun is losing plasma. So we have plasma coming off of the sun, and we're seeing, I believe that was Mike from Around the World put forth, we're seeing on the sun like the largest group of holes are in the sun, sunspots, and Stephen Burns puts forth that plasma from the sun is now coming from the sun and impacting Earth. So that's going on. It's the largest hole on the sun in the 21st century. The sun is losing plasma. And also that Atlas will be moving from the constellation Virgo to Leo, and is once again changing color, green to gold. So that's going on. And we have this. All right. We have that being put forth now by, from the Dr. Kipling, who published in the monthly Notice to Royal Astronomical Society. Our first contact with Atlas was in 1977, which he puts forth was our first contact, as we've seen in movies like First Contact. I believe that was with Jodie Foster. But now we have reliable astronomy sources putting out, yes, the Earth did have its first contact in 1977 via a radio signal from Atlas. And hey, we were going to tell y'all when we could no longer hide it, as is ongoing now since Atlas is visible to amateur astronomers. And we have this. So we have also, when we have these cycles going on in space, that often goes along with big changes in economy. We're seeing silver now in the U.S. up around $72 an ounce. In China, I believe it's up around $80 to $85 an ounce. So we see big change in our markets going on. We also see a big impact on the war cycle. And for my part, I wouldn't be surprised to see in 2026 in the U.S. a possibility of a military draft. Just saying, and certainly something for us to pray against. So we know we have Ukraine, Russia, Europe, China, and we have all of these big players, Russia and China, now embedded in Venezuela and Cuba. This is reminiscent of the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. Well, baby, it's going on right now. And I know a lot of people are saying, why is President Trump putting 15% of the U.S. Navy in the Caribbean? I submit this, it's to defend America, because in Venezuela, we have Russian and Chinese military troops and assets, as well as in Cuba, 90 miles off of the Florida coast. So we have this coming out from Danny Hopag, interviewed Pepe Escobar, that Zelensky went to Italy to talk to the government of Italy to put in a Ukrainian military base near Sicily. And there was strong pushback by the Italian people who do not want Ukraine military inside Italy. So that's a no-go. It was going to be a Ukraine base, not NATO. But the people of Italy rejected that. So that's going on. And we have this. BPEARTHWATCH, Venezuela. So we've seen the U.S. Taking charge of Chinese oil tankers moving from Venezuela into the Caribbean. Now, BPEARTHWATCH believes there's a possibility the U.S. is taking these oil tankers, and one of them, they have 3 so far, one of them could be a Trojan horse. And we have some more information coming out that makes BP's position stronger. So we have Cuba right here. We have the 3 oil tankers coming in. One is going to Houston, Galveston area, where I live. And we have this. The Pentagon says a Chinese tanker, they have 3 of them. One of them was carrying 100 ICBMs. And that China is now putting ICBMs on launchers as of December the 22nd between the border of China and Mongolia. So that's going on. But China and Russia are both taking strong military moves aimed at, it appears, against the U.S. We have President Trump naming an envoy to Greenland. President Trump has said the U.S. needs Greenland for its security. He has named Governor Jeff Landry of Louisiana, who I understand will continue in his role as governor, but will also function as a special envoy for President Trump to Greenland. So that's going on. And we have this. From the White House, President Trump, puts forth that the U.S. is gearing up to manufacture Navy ships called the Golden Fleet. And they'll be 100 times bigger and better than our current ships. Way to go, President Trump. We had seen in the past the Democrats, who are socialists, trying to destroy the U.S. military, whereas President Trump is now taking strong steps to bolster our strength, to engage and pursue peace through strength. We have this from Michael JACO. We have this going on in the state of Georgia. Yes, the Georgia election was rigged, and there was fraud in the presidential election of 2020. Remember when Fannie Willis, AG, DA, she was the DA in Fulton County, Georgia, charged President Trump with interfering in the 2020 election. Shut up, Fannie. So now it's coming out, Georgia has to admit that there were 315,000 illegal votes, which let JB win Georgia by about 12,000 votes. So we see Georgia, the state of Georgia, itself engaged in election fraud in 2020. We would wonder how many of the election officials in Georgia in 2020 were being paid off by the CCP. So that's going on. We have this from GLEN, who interviewed Alex KRAINER, a European journalist, who says, according to the U.S., President Trump's new security strategy paper, the U.S. recognizes the world is multipolar and that this is a U.S. plan to destroy the new world order. So way to go, President Trump. And we have this from Hal Turner. According to an EU leader of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, speech in Europe is like a virus, and it needs to be controlled and censored by governments much like a vaccine. So we see Europe going publicly full commie. And we have this from Zero Hedge. Yeah. Okay. China, over the weekend, put on its TV an exercise of China versus the U.S. in the Caribbean, right here. And demonstrated Chinese ships, military ships going into Cuba, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Houston, Texas. So we see BPEARTHWATCH's position of one of these tankers being a Trojan horse could indeed be true. So at any rate, China put it on their TV sets. Yes, and of course, showed themselves as winning against the U.S. And the plan, according to the exercise, was for China to be in Cuba and Mexico, to enter the U.S. at Houston, Texas, and then take over the Gulf of America and the Caribbean. I got this to say to China: shut up. And we have this, because China is a pagan nation. They destroy any religions at all. The CCP has written a CCP Bible. You can go to a CCP church and worship CCP. It is pagan. Whereas America, we have God on our side. And we have this from TWZ. Satellites now confirm that China is loading up its commercial cargo ships with military missiles. They're called Club K. And we first heard this term, Club K, in about 2019 or 18 from General McInerney. And also Stephen Banoon with Israeli News Live. He was formerly with the CIA. He had information on it. So we have a ship, and the ship has on it containers. And the Club K missiles work this way. The container lid then comes up, opens, and a missile comes out and fires. So we see China now loading its commercial cargo ships with military missiles. So another question would be, what rules apply to this vessel? So China is loading cargo ships with missiles. It can get 60 vertical launches, Club K, on one medium-sized cargo ship. And it's also installing radar on these commercial ships. So that's going on. Satellites confirm this is going on. And that would go along with the exercise China put on TV of its ships coming in from all directions here. And we have this from GOSPA News. Christmas Eve, Russia put out its strategic bombers called Bears, Tu-95. And they went from Russia over to in the area of the UK and Norway. They went over the Norway Sea to the coast, near the coast of the UK. Tu-95 Bears, accompanied by Russian Su-33 fighter jets. And they were in the air 7 hours. Naturally, NATO scrambled jets. I put forth that this was a show of force by Russia to Europe. And we have this from BREITBART, that President Trump, over the Christmas weekend, made public statements from the White House, he and several of his cabinet members, that the reason for Christmas is to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. And I put this forth: the pagan nation of China cannot prevail against a nation whose leader acknowledges Jesus Christ. So I believe it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.